Hey there! Welcome to Retro Reloaded. I'm your host Lance, and each week I tackle a retro game shaped by your picks. If you want a chance to choose next week's game or unlock exclusive bonus episodes and polls, join me on Patreon at patreon.com/retroreloaded. There's even a free tier to dip your toes in. Big thanks for all of your love and support. It means the world to me. Now let's hit the start button and reload those retro vibes.
Released in the late 1990s for the Game Boy, Pokémon Red and Blue introduced players to the Kanto region, and quietly sparked one of the biggest gaming phenomena in history. Built on a simple but addictive formula, catch, train, and battle creatures known as Pokémon, the games encouraged exploration, strategy, and social interaction through trading and battling with friends via the iconic link cable. What began as a modest RPG quickly became a cultural force, laying the foundation for a franchise that would span generations. At its core, the story follows a young trainer setting out on a journey to become the Pokémon champion. Along the way, they challenge gym leaders, thwart the criminal ambitions of Team Rocket, and rival a persistent challenger who always seems one step ahead. It's a classic coming-of-age adventure, one driven not just by victory, but by discovery, friendship, and the thrill of building a team all your own.
Before we jump into the episode, I wanted to give a quick shout out to the awesome supporters over on Patreon who help keep Retro Reloaded going. Huge thanks to the 64-bit legend, our legendary supporter Zero, for always being consistent and such an awesome supporter of the show. Also, our 16-bit adventurers, Tetrafoli, Marcus Q, thank you so much for helping the show every month. You're always very supportive, and I appreciate you. And then, of course, our 8-bit explorers, Werkin Warden, Gaming Quarterly, and Anthony T. Thank you so much for your help. Everything counts, and I appreciate your support. And then, of course, just everybody who listens to the show, who likes the show on YouTube, Patreon, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all these different places where you watch and listen to the show. Thank you for supporting me there. Leaving comments helps a lot. Liking, engaging, all these things. So appreciate your involvement. It's been really great. And if you're ever interested, there is a free tier on Patreon. It's just it's a good way to get involved. And of course, our Discord, Retro Reloaded Discord, is a really great way to be involved in the community. So thank you all for keeping retro gaming alive. All right, guys, with all that stuff out of the way, we have a brand new episode of Retro Reloaded. And this is a pretty big game, or games, as I should say, because there's two of them. Well, you could say there's three if you're including Pokemon Yellow, but these games are huge, right? Pokemon Red and Blue, just massive, massive games that started an entire series of Pokemon games that I want to get into during the episode and talk more about. But first, I want to introduce our guest, and ironically or unironically, our guest is called Gamefreak. Gamefreak, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. So yeah, we're gonna, the reason it's ironic, if people don't know that are listening, Game Freak was the original developers of the first two Pokemon games, Red and Blue, and so I know they've done other games, I think, other than just those two. I think they had involvement in Silver and Gold. I think they were involved. I think they're still involved today in some Pokemon games, right? They're not involved in all of them, right?
Yeah, it's weird how the Pokemon companies kind of split and everything, but I believe they're still technically the developers for all the current games.
Yeah. So, Game Freak, yeah, very popular name in the Pokemon series, and Pokemon is a huge, huge franchise. I mean, if you haven't heard of Pokemon, you're living under a rock, like a massive rock, because even if you don't play the games, or you haven't watched the anime, or you've never played the card games, you've never done any of that, you've heard it in passing. It's just one of those things. It's like hearing about like Superman or maybe like Marvel or something. It's like one of those titles that just, it took over the world. So first of all, before we kind of get into all that stuff, I kind of want to ask you, Game Freak, like, what is kind of your history with this game? Did you grow up with it? Did you get into the series later on? Like, how did that all pan out for you?
Sure. So I actually am not considered a Gen 1er because I don't want to call myself that, but I definitely was there at the beginning. I would have been 10 when it came to the States in 98. And so I was probably the perfect demographic. I don't remember what came first, the chicken or the egg, with watching the anime or getting Pokemon Blue for, I want to say Christmas. I think it came out in November that year. Um, but I was, pretty much there from day one of it coming to the States, and really just captivated by the journey of a 10-year-old kid and adventure, and then being able to like play the game and experience that journey and go on it myself was just, you know, I- I'm sure what the original creator, his intention was, to be able to share that journey with other kids.
Yes. Yeah, and so I understand that experience because I believe for me, the anime came out first. At least that's what I saw first, and then the Pokemon games were, like, a little bit newer. Um, and it kind of the game kind of follows Ash's journey, but it's not Ash. It's a character called Red, and Red is kind of a like if Ash was an alternate reality, I would say, and if
Hmm.
Ash was actually like good at using Pokemon, like
Yeah. I'll never
it's
forget
like
finishing the first season and he loses. I was like so crushed. I was like, how can this happen? But like, I think it's good to, not every character and every story has to win. So,
yeah, yeah, and I feel like Ash has lost a lot. I mean, he has a very powerful Pikachu, but and then he had like a Charizard at one. To be honest, I don't follow it like nowadays. I don't know where Ash is in his journey. If he's like won any of the leagues, like if he's a Pokemon
yeah,
Master,
I
or
think
if he's
he's
still
retired by now.
like, yeah, I don't know what's going on with this character, but yeah, when I left off, he like you said, he kind of lost, but this is Red in the video games. He succeeds. He beats spoilers, but not really. He beats the league. What are they called? The Elite Four. He beats
Elite
the
Four.
Elite Four. Yeah, and then he beats his rival, which I think his name could either be green or blue, depending on which iteration you're kind of like dealing with. But when I was watching the Pokemon Origins anime, I think he called him green. In that because green was the Japanese blue. What am I right? That was like the Japanese blue.
Yeah, it was red and green over in Japan. And then I think they thought like red and blue would do better in the States because of red, white, and blue.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. And to me, I feel like red and blue are the contrast there. Like if I think of red in the opposite of red, and maybe that isn't correct. Maybe in like reality, green and red are the opposites, but I think of blue and red as being opposites of each other. So yeah, maybe they
The
thought it would
fire
be
and
better.
water, right?
Yeah, fire and water, right? Yeah, totally. That makes sense. So, and literally, Charizard and Blastoise, which are the fire Pokemon, water Pokemon, which are the cover art for the games. So yeah, I went and for the episode, I went and back and replayed these games, and I kind of did a retrospective on them, and I got um, I got some. It's a very big nostalgia hit for me, so I got a lot of nostalgia. I always do anytime I return to these games. It's not like the first time I've returned to them. It's one of those. I feel like it's a comfort game for me. Do you kind of feel like that with these, or like what's your Pokemon comfort game?
I mean, they're definitely the main core series. I will say I have not gone back to them since the beginning, like, and done a full playthrough, but eh, the core formula for me has been what like hooked me is like I've played a lot of turn-based RPGs my whole growing up, Final Fantasy, you name it, all those kinds of things. But when I saw the Game Freak's take on it, where it's like not just like these certain class roles, but it's like the different types and their advantages and weaknesses and the different moves that everyone can have, like, and also the different amount of party members you can have, like, it's just completely replayable. It's like, oh, next time I'm going to run this team, or next time I want to try doing something different. So I haven't, like I said, I wouldn't say going back to Gen 1's my comfort, but Gen 3, like the Ruby Sapphires of the world, that's my favorite to replay. Um, But that's just because that's like the last iteration on the Game Boy.
Yeah. So I feel like that Gen 3 is a common favorite among people. Like when I kind of put my feelers out there on Reddit and I'm asking people about stuff, like Gen 3 comes up a lot, like Gen 3 as a people's favorite. And I ironically haven't I don't think I've played Gen 3. Is that the first one where you could be like a boy or a girl? Is that the first one in the series?
No, so the first one you could be a boy or a girl was actually Crystal, which was the end of Gen 2. But
Okay.
then it was a part of it. It was actually not that Gen 2 didn't have color, it was the Game Boy Color, but which had like what, 16 colors. But it was the first, like, the Game Boy Advance games were like a beautiful new palette of color. Like that's, I think, what I think a lot of people like about it is it's a real step up in graphics.
Do you have the running shoes in Gen 3?
Yeah, you get those right away. That helps, I think, a lot of people. What's funny,
Yeah.
because I just replayed a little bit of Gen 1 just to kind of get a feel of it, because I know people complain about the running shoes. And I was like, how bad was it? And I was like, it's noticeable, but like, again, we're talking like at this point, 25, 30 years since these games have been out. We're so used to moving quicker in things. It's not unreasonable for a game that came out in the 90s to have kind of like a slow, pixel by pixel movement. Final Fantasy was
Yeah.
much the same way.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, there was a lot of games that were slower back then, and it was okay because if you bought a game, a lot of the time you had that only that game for like 6 months. If you're a kid, maybe you got a new
Hmm.
game at Christmas, maybe you got one on your birthday, but you weren't unless you were a rich kid, which there were some. You're not raking in like a new game every other week. You know what I mean? It's like you're gonna have this game for a minute because it costs like 30 to 60 bucks back in the 90s. Whatever these cost, I don't remember. I want to say the Pokemon games released at like 30 or 40 bucks. But I
That
cannot
sounds about
remember.
right. Yeah, I didn't buy them,
Um,
but yeah, that sounds accurate.
Yeah, I didn't buy them either. My parents bought them for me and my brother when we were young, and we were begging for it because our neighbor, and I'm gonna say her name, first name, we called her, well, nickname, Jin Jin. She got the game and she like showed it to me, and I cannot explain to you the enthrallment I felt when I first looked at that game. I felt like I got a spell was casted over me, like literally, like that. There's no other way to kind of explain that feeling. But when I saw it, I had to have it. It was like one of those things where I was obsessed, like right off the bat. When she was like, "Yeah, you can go around." You can go capture all these Pokemon, you can battle with them. You're literally living the character in the anime. And I was yeah, and so we're begging, and I think because me and my brother were so adamant and persistent in how much we wanted these games, my parents like made it kind of one of those special things where it's like, okay, it's not your birthday, but we'll get it for you.
Hmm.
Um, it was yeah, yeah, you can't. There was no words I can describe to seeing that come to life, even though it's not like the most advanced game. So, like for example, there were games like FF7, I think, that were out at the
Yeah.
time, um, or like there were other games that did things more advanced, but I think the fact that this game translated so well from the anime onto a Game Boy game that you could go around anywhere with was like a huge thing. Like this was even on the big gray original Game Boy, it was just so I would say for a Game Boy game it was ahead of its time. I know people disagree, but I think for a Game Boy game, I think it was pretty far ahead. And maybe like another game would be like Link to the Past. That was pretty far ahead for the Game Boy. But yeah, just really incredible. And the game isn't short. You're not talking about a short game. Unless you like can speed, the speed run stuff. There's some grind to it, for sure. I don't go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think a lot of what is that they do well is they let you use your imagination. Like the show probably helped feed that, but like if you've ever played the Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee on the Switch, it's like exactly what I thought I was doing when I was playing the Game Boy game. So you can like put them next to each other and see how like stark difference is. But it's just like you had the show showing you what the towns look like, what the characters look like, what the Pokemon look like, and then you can have that in your brain, and then you play this like clunky Game Boy game that isn't bad, but just like graphically, you as a child have such a vivid imagination that I thought that I was doing what they were doing in the show.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it's like it was cool because it was shrouded in mystery too, like, nowadays, Red and Blue has been so, like, solved, like, beyond solved. It's like, everybody knows everything about the game. They know, like, all these glitches and bugs and, like, the ins and outs and perfectly what stats, and
Hmm.
that's one thing no offense to anybody who's, like, a competitive Pokemon person. I think there's a niche for that, but I feel like it's like that's a totally different audience, you know what I mean? Like, people who are like, I have to optimize the stats on each do you feel this way about the game? Like, when you play Pokemon, you're like, "I have to get the best ones and have them all optimized?"
No, I definitely don't fall into that. I have tried to get into Nuzlocking a little bit because I do want a little bit more challenge with it. But I will say, going back to that comment that you had about being shrouded in mystery, when I even just look at the box art for these games, I get transported back literally 30 years, seeing these for the first time and having, like you said, no idea who they were, what it meant, or what like the journey was going to be. So like, everyone like loves Charizard and he's fine, but like when I saw Blastoise, I was like, that is a Ninja Turtle with guns. Like that is so cool. Like that's the one I want. And like I still to this day when I see like a new game, I'm like looking at the box art and I'm like, "Oh, that legendary is cooler than that legendary. I'm going to get that." You know? And it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be that they're like the strongest or like the best. It helps certainly, when they are, but like I feel like a lot of the ones that are like super strong are almost like overrated in my opinion, and I like finding like really creative ways to be like, "Oh, Charizard, he's so popular, but like I'm going to put up stealth rocks and let you throw your Charizard out and take him down to half health immediately." Like that's what I really like about the game is there's so many ways to manipulate the battles and the fights to your advantage through what the game offers you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was the same way, by the way. I was a Blastoise Squirtle person. Like, I always chose Squirtle. Squirtle was like my boy. Everybody loved Charmander. I feel like Charmander was the most popular, maybe followed by Squirtle and then Bulbasaur like being last. I love Squirtle. I don't know what it was about that the freaking turtle with the guns on his back. I was like,
Mhm.
that's a sick. Like, maybe because he kind of reminds me of like a Digimon or something. I mean, Digimon was after, but like I like the Digimon designs. I thought they were cool too. So yeah, he's like a mechanical. I don't even know what he is, but yeah, I know he could take on Charizard. I knew that.
Right?
So I was like, he could beat that lizard. Um, but no, yeah, it was cool. Very cool. Yeah, and a Shrouded Mystery. So it's like every time you went to a new town, you didn't know what you were getting into. It was like there was like a new adventure awaiting you every single town, and there was like, and when you would run into that new Pokemon, you're like, holy crap, this is like an Abra. Like this I want this, and then it would like teleport away. You're like, what? Like, how do I get this thing? Like it always teleports like right away, and you're like, you'd run into like a Clefairy randomly in like a cave, in the first cave, like Mount Moon, and you're like, whoa, I've been only running into Zubats and Geodudes for the last like 10 minutes. Now I'm running into a Clefairy. How do I get this? And so it was always cool, like randomly running into these things, and then later on you figure out like things like the helix fossil versus the dome fossil, and you figure out just all kinds of different things, and then eventually when you really get into it, you get into like the missing no thing, and it's like, what is this thing in this in the safari and the game? It's just so much, right? There's so much mystery to the game. And then yeah, I played it. I played it to where I think I got 150 Pokemon out of the 151, and I can't remember who I was missing. And
Did
I
you
don't
get
know why.
Mew?
It might have been no. Wait, no, it was Mew. It must have been Mew. It had to
Because
be
that was
because I
like
don't think I.
distribution only back in the day, unless you glitched it.
Yeah, you could Game Shark it. I know that.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't think I did. So I think I was missing that Pokemon. Uh, but yeah, so thankfully my brother eventually stopped playing the game, and I asked him if I could overwrite his save. And he said yes. And because he was like he fell out of Pokemon quicker than I did. And so I went back on his save and I got like all the starters. Like I would get like each starter, send it, trade it to me, and then I got like all the ones that you could only get on red, and like I got the Dome Fossil versus the Helix or whatever. So, yeah. By the way, what do you choose? Do you choose Dome or Helix Fossil?
Um, Dome. I'm a big fan of Kabutops.
Yeah, same. He's way cooler. He is so much cooler than Omni Knight or whatever. He's
Yeah,
way
I feel like
cooler.
it only got popular because Twitch plays Pokemon, but I mean that's just a personal take.
Oh, really? People think that there's people who actually prefer Omni Knight or whatever?
Yeah, I think there was some kind of like thing with the Twitch plays Pokemon where like they kept trying to use the fossil over and over again, and it's just become this huge meme of like the Helix fossil. And again, that's just my perspective from kind of being outside of the world of Pokemon whenever it was all happening, but being like, no, I always
Yeah.
like Kabutops, back in the day.
Well, I mean, he's like a I don't even know what he is, but he's got two giant scythes for arms. You know what I
Right.
mean?
A little bit
He's
cooler.
like he's super cool. The other one's like a snail or whatever. He's like a
Hmm.
snail, a spiky snail or something. Um, yeah, Kabutops is way cooler. And then by the way, what is your favorite like Pokemon from Gen 1?
Oh boy. Gen 1. This maybe be a really weird take, but I'm a big fan of Mr. Mime.
No, I don't think that's weird at all. I
I
think
think
that's
it's just because Psychic was so broken, and I thought like that was such a cool take. Like Kadabra, Alakazam, like definitely like wow, Mewtwo, amazing, but just like somebody that has just a little bit like not so in your face of like I'm super powerful. You know what I mean?
yeah. And he
Plus, if
was
I could have
rare.
him now cleaning my house, totally.
Yeah. What'd you have to do to get him in Gen 1? You had to like trade him with
Yeah, I
the
think he was a trade for something. I'm blanking on. Might be a Poliwhirl or something. So you had to
like
go out of your way, to
yeah.
fish for it.
Or like a Jinx maybe or yeah, maybe it was a Poliwhirl. I don't remember. But yeah, he was a rare Pokemon. You can only get like one in the game. And he
Mhm.
was powerful. And he was like he's got, he could be like a little strange or whatever cuz he's like a human looking Pokemon. You're like, "Okay, this is kind of weird," but like I think he's cool. Like I think Mr. Mime is like a cool concept. I kind of wanted him to do more in the show, but he was mostly like cleaning with Ash's mom. Like that was like his whole
Yeah, his whole shtick.
yeah, he's like just helping out. I mean, good for his mom, but yeah, Mr. Mime is interesting. Gen 1, my favorite, I feel like I'm kind of what do you call it? A basic B because Mewtwo is kind of my favorite from Gen 1.
Fair.
And it is cuz he's strong, but I think he's also got a cool design and I think um yes, he's got that intelligence to him that makes him kind of a more of an interesting character, I think, as a Pokemon. So I think that was really cool. People like Mew, but I don't know, Mew's just kind of like a playful cat,
Right.
compared to, he just like he's messing with people or whatever. Um,
Like Mewtwo's like playing 4D chess, and Mew's like just like weaving in and out of his everything he's putting in the way. So yeah, it's two sides of the same coin, pretty much.
yeah, yeah. Um, and so I liked Mewtwo. I think they kind of did him dirty in Mewtwo Returns. I think he kind of gets owned in that one by the Team Rocket, but
So
or
yeah, the
like
movie. Hmm.
yeah, whatever. I think it was Team Rocket, but he kind of gets clapped in the Mewtwo Returns. But the first movie, Mewtwo, or wait, is that
Strikes Back.
Strikes Back?
I
Which
can't
one's the second
remember.
one? they, they both have names that seem like it would be number two. Wait, Strikes Back's got to be number two, and then the first Pokemon movie's got to be like something else, right?
Might have
Um,
just been called the Pokemon movie back in the day, but I know there's the one on Netflix that came out. I feel like it has Mewtwo's name in it.
yeah, I think that was the Strikes Back or something. I don't know. What was the first Pokemon? I think it was just called the Pokemon movie. Um,
Yeah, I remember going. I remember getting the card. My poor dad had to sit through it with me because nobody else wanted to go.
it's called Pokemon the first movie? Okay, well, that makes sense. That I mean, maybe it isn't. Yeah, I guess it is called the first movie. 1999. That would be right.
Yeah,
I
it sounds
think
totally right.
right in it. Why does Mewtwo Strikes Back say 98 on dude, that's wild. Okay, I don't know. But anyways, so yeah, I got the card too. It was like a Egyptian Mew card, right? No, that was the Egyptian Mew was something you got from Toys R Us. It was the Mewtwo card, right?
Yeah, I think it was a Mewtwo card.
And it had like the promo sticker on it. Like it said
Yeah.
promo on it. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that was pretty cool. The Egyptian Mew card was I don't know if you remember that one too, but like my parents had to wait at Toys R Us um in line for like hours to get this one card for me.
I hope you still have it.
I don't, dude. So sad
You
story,
poor
and I'll make
parents.
it quick. But basically, when I was 14, we didn't have the money to pay for our storage unit, and so I lost a lot of my childhood stuff during that
Oh,
time.
that's
Like I
rough.
lost all my Pokemon cards, and I pretty much had all the hollows from that generation.
Yeah.
Um, and I lost like my SNES and all kinds of stuff. So, but it's fine. You know, you can get stuff back later in life. I got a new collection actually. It's not I don't have the Egyptian Mew though, but I do have a bunch of the what are they called? The Gen 1 base, like not first editions, but
Base.
like the
Mhm,
basics.
yeah.
Yeah, base. So I do have a bunch of those. And I got a couple of second editions and stuff. So it's kind of cool building up my collection again. I don't have a lot of hollows though, because people want $1 billion for those things.
Yeah, right.
So
Not worth it.
I'm not worth it. They're cool though. They're very cool and they're very nostalgic. I love the art with the cards.
Yeah, that
Do you
was
have
another thing that was just so, like, again, so mysterious. I don't think anyone actually knew how to play the game. I'm sure it came with instructions, but I just remember, like, on the playground stuff, they're like, "Well, mine has more HP than yours, and,
yeah.
mine needs more energy than yours."
Everyone knew the Charizard card was OP because it had like 100 and what 30 or 20 HP and like 100 like attack power or something like something
Yeah, it could just
crazy.
kill anything.
Yeah, and then Arcanine had like a crazy amount of attack power too, but he had less HP. So it was very cool. I didn't play it either. I think I tried. I did play it kind of with my neighbor, and he was trying to explain to me. He was a little bit older. I think I was like 7, and he was like 9 at the time. So he's like, "Well, because of this and this," and I think he was making up the rules. I'm not gonna lie. I think he was
Right.
totally. I think he was like, "This is how
Now
it
you think
goes."
back on it, he's definitely making this up.
Yeah, yeah. He's like making it up. I mean, he's a smart kid, so maybe, but it was. I didn't really play it to play it. I played it to collect it, like most people. It was just
Right.
kind of like having the cards, which is kind of a weird thing of a card game. I guess they were like more like baseball cards. You know how people
Yeah,
collect
they
those.
were way more collectible than
Yeah. I did play the mobile recently, like last year. I was playing the TCG app, the mobile app.
Mhm.
Have you tried that?
I have not, but my kids, are really into the cards. Like, I actually learned from them how to really play the card game, and so we had it on, PC, and then they were fighting over the PC, and I was like, "Hold on, I think I can get it on my phone," so that they could both play at the same time.
Yeah.
But it's
It's
nice. It
act
kinda reminds me of Hearthstone. I don't know if you've ever played that.
I know of it. I've never played it. I have a friend who likes it though. I do play WoW though, so I'm very
Oh, yeah,
familiar with like
nice, yeah.
Blizzard games.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, you been playing Midnight or?
Ugh, no, I haven't, and I'm, like, so on the fence, and we could probably have an
Yeah.
hour-long discussion about that as
Oh
well.
yeah. Oh yeah. Are you
But,
a classic guy?
you know what? I want to be because I was there for Classic, like, and Burning Crusade, like, and I really wanted to go back for the re-release recently, but, like, after, like, the first 20 levels, I was like, "I just really like Mythic Plus, so I just wanna go play retail."
Yeah, classic is it's a different experience. And maybe I shouldn't really get into this because I know it's like not Pokemon. Um, but we were talking about how there's games that were slower paced back in the day. Classic
Yep,
was kind of on that
definitely.
track. It takes a long time to get 1 to 60, and you kind of have to be in it for the journey.
Yeah, and I don't really have anyone that I play with consistently, so it's like back in high school when I could play with my friends, it was totally different experience, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I feel the same way. So yeah, so if it wasn't Gen 1, like let's say you get to choose out of the Gen 3 or like who's your favorite Pokemon in general, just out of curiosity?
This is funny because I really don't like Gen 6, but he's from Gen 6 and it's Pancham. And I can't really explain this other than actually it's ironic you brought up WoW, but like all my characters are Pandaren. I must really like pandas or something because anytime there's availability in a game or something, I'll pick it. So, but just him by himself, like Pangoro is cool. I like the concept. I like, the fact that like Goro is like this big fighter. I still kind of want Goro Chew, but that's never coming. Uh, but
I've
yeah, like,
seen the art of this Pokemon a lot. The
yeah.
Pancham. It's
Hmm.
a popular Pokemon, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's cute and little, and I actually haven't watched any parts of the anime, so I don't actually know how he acts, but I just know that I don't. My story's kind of complicated because I did play Gen 1, but then I basically stopped. But my parents also got me. This is terrible. I played Gen or Kanto 3 times. They got me blue, yellow, and leaf green, which I think I would have had a totally different experience if I had like blue, a Gen 2 game, and then I wanted sapphire, but they didn't know any better. So I've played this same game so many times and then I just basically dropped it. So whenever I was like getting back into it about 5, 6 years ago, and I like started looking at all of them, he just stuck right out. And I actually, when I played Pokemon Y for the first time, he was on my team. I gave him an Everstone so he wouldn't evolve because I had no idea how he evolved. And it was really frustrating because I could really feel that he was being held back in stats because he wasn't evolved. But I still played.
Yeah.
We still beat the game. It was fine.
Yeah. Yeah, so you kinda had you played, like, the same game, like, 3 times in a row, 'cause if anybody doesn't know, Pokemon Yellow was basically kind of it was like Pokemon Red and Blue with some modifications, essentially. Like, you start out with Pikachu instead, and the Pikachu follows you around, and you kinda have this companion thing going on with the Pikachu, and then you can also get every starter, so they added a couple of extra, I guess, like things into the game to where like you can get all three starters, which was crazy to me. When Pokemon Yellow released, I thought that was so overpowered that you could get all three starters in the
It
game.
kind of was.
Um it was really cool, but I didn't have Pokemon Yellow at the time, so I was jealous. I was like, I don't have the Pikachu, I don't have like the three starters, but it was a do you feel like it's the best one out of the three? Like, do you think it's the best iteration?
I do, and it's probably just because I think it follows the anime more closely. Like you actually fight Jesse and James. Like they tie so much better into the anime, and a lot of the stuff of like getting the starters, like is I felt like was in place of how he found the starters in the show as well. And I'm not like
Yes.
the biggest Pikachu fan either, so I can't even tell you if I used them. But the fact that like it followed you around just like the show, it wouldn't stay in the Pokeball, like and I'm sure there's other like quality of life things that I'm forgetting, but I don't know if you're into ROM hacks at all, but there's one called Pokemon Yellow Legacy, which kind of I think fixes all the Gen 1 issues. I haven't played it yet, but I'm actually playing Pokemon Crystal Legacy right now, and I can tell you that I dislike the Gen 2 games very much, and these ROM hacks are fixing a lot of the problems, which is and crazy that people have to fix these problems when these billion-dollar companies could just fix them. But I don't know how much they care to fix them, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think for maybe for a company that is a what do you call it? Like a spiky thing to do, or like like they'd have to be very careful on how they fix it because remakes are a touchy thing for some people. Like some people are like, yeah, remake it, go ahead, like do it, and so other people are like, don't touch my game, like don't you dare
Yeah, you
like
can't
make
win
it any
either way.
different. Yeah, so I don't mind remakes. I think they're fine. Like because you always have the original game to go back to. Like it's always there if you want it, you know. Um so like it would be cool maybe to have and they did remake these games. They did it with Leaf Green and Fire Red. Did you play those?
Yeah, so actually, it's crazy because just going back for a second, so I played, Blue and was there for the whole N64 era, but then like I went to GameCube. So my first experience of Gen 2 Pokemon was in Smash Brothers whenever you throw the Pokeball and then pop out and I'm like, what are these things? I don't know what they are because again, had yellow at the time and uh but then going to uh I had a Game Boy Advance and I wanted Sapphire, but I remember seeing the Nintendo Power and reading it. Actually, that would be the only one I'd ever want to like buy is because I think it had like a partial guide or something. But like again, going back to the box art, seeing Kyogre, who's probably my favorite legendary, just on there, like it. I mean, I love the ocean in general, but like you talking about like the Pokemon who like is king of the ocean, it's incredible. Um, so I have like a lot of. It's funny, I have like a lot of nostalgia for that, but I actually never owned the game. So again, I had a Game Boy Advance at the time that I bought myself, but then I was kind of done with Game Boys and handhelds. And for Christmas, my parents randomly get me a Nintendo DS Lite and Pokemon Leaf Green. And I'm like, I didn't
Oh.
ask for either of these things, but I guess thank you. And then like I think I got through like the third gym and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the same game. And I kind of just put it down.
No. They bought you the same game like a fourth time?
Yeah, I'm like,
You're like, "How many times am I gonna
I'm
play
like,
this game?"
this Pokemon game's so stupid. It's the same thing every time, which I know a lot of people say, but I'm like, the gyms are the same, the Pokemon are the same. Meanwhile, I'm like, have no idea. There's two other whole regions and more Pokemon. And
That's so funny. Yeah, yeah, no, Leaf Green and Fire Red definitely add a lot, I think, to the game. And I don't know if have you ever heard of Pokemon MMO?
I have heard of it, and it like intrigues me, but I've never actually played it, and I'm not sure how it works entirely. I mean, I think I've gone down the lines of been like, oh, I know what I would need to do to play it, but I haven't taken that step.
You're essentially just playing the Game Boy games with like other people in the world, and so it's a very interesting concept. And I think it's like if you have an internet connection, it might be like kind of, no, well, that's debatable. Other people don't. Sometimes people don't want to be social. You don't have to
Yeah.
be social, but you can
Hmm.
you can battle other players and you can like talk to them and stuff. And the way the legendaries work, I think, is that there's actually only one legendary per continent or something, or like not per continent. So like the legendaries can only be attained by one person at a time, and I think those people can lose them. Like
Uh,
it was
that's
like
kind of
kind of a
neat.
weird, yeah, it was kind of neat. So like if they weren't like maybe it was a time limit thing or something, or if they weren't taking care of it, like it would like go out
Abandon
into the
them.
world. Yeah. But it was cool. It was very cool because it was like it's like Mewtwo's over here, and everybody would like try to go get the Mewtwo. I don't know, but it's crazy. But anyways, yeah. Going back to kind of like the Gen 1. Um, we kind of covered the story and the premise like kind of very shortly. It's not a very complex story. It's like you're a young boy and you get sent out into the world. Like you go out into the world and your mom's like, "Oh, I guess everybody leaves home at some point." Like she's just like it's a normal part of this world, and he's like 10. I think he's a 10-year-old boy. And he just leaves and like he's going to go out adventuring for Pokemon, and then Professor Oak, who like stops him, is like, "Hey, we got these like three starters." And then you get to choose one, and then your nemesis always chooses, like he's like Professor Oak's grandson, chooses the opposite Pokemon from you. So if you choose like the Squirtle, he's going to choose the leaf Pokemon Bulbasaur to counter you. And if you choose Charmander, he's going to choose Squirtle. If you choose Bulbasaur, he's going to choose Charmander. And so it basically, you go out into the world, you collect 8 badges, kind of like you were saying, and you eventually defeat the Elite Four and your nemesis at the end. And I just kind of want to cover the premise. But as far as the gameplay, for anybody who hasn't played Pokemon or have seen Pokemon, which I would find pretty hard to imagine people haven't, but if they haven't, how would you describe the gameplay loop?
So yeah, I mean, if you don't know what turn-based combat is, it's pretty simple. each player gets a turn. It then you get 4 attacking moves, usually as a kid, that's all you had, but there's 4 moves that you can have in general, to defeat your opponent, and they can attack you, and you just kinda go back and forth, and then there's a lot of things that can change that, like, instead of just attacking with your only attacking move, you can increase your attack, you can decrease your enemy's defenses, you can change the speed so that you go first instead of them, so there's a lot more sophisticated play that can happen, but for the most part, as a kid, if you can know, like, fire beats grass, water beats fire, you can just kind of do that the whole game and get through just fine.
Yeah, I think that is the most important part is like knowing what counters what as far as like Pokemon types or whatever. Um, then you could get into like the more hardcore stuff, but I think that's like the biggest thing, right?
Yeah, definitely. And what's I always found interesting about that is it really allows you to come in not even really like under leveled, but like you could have a very like dangerous enemy ahead of you, and as long as you know their weaknesses, like legendaries, I think this should be more of the case than just like throw a master ball at them and they listen to you. But it's just like I think you should have to defeat them for the right to catch them, and they do that in some games later on, which is nice. But just being like, oh, like how would you counter Mewtwo when again you have a game where Psychic is basically broken? It has virtually no weaknesses. It really is feels intimidating, from that standpoint of being in Gen 1.
Yeah. Yeah, psychic Pokemon were OP. Like their abilities were so strong. Like you could use like Psybeam and like confusion, even confusion, which is like a low level like ability did a lot of damage. And there was that's what it's called, right? I think that's what it's called it because is confusion or something like that.
Yeah, Confusion's like the first psychic move
Yeah.
that you usually get, and then I think it goes like Psybeam, Psychic is the strongest.
Yeah, and so once you get like, yeah, you're like Alakaz if you're running Alakazam and like, if Mr. Mime or a Mewtwo, well, Mewtwo's at the end, but if you're running like those psychic Pokemons, also the ghost Pokemon are pretty strong as well. I feel like, because they can learn a lot of them can learn psychic moves, can't they? Or no?
I think, yeah, some of them can. It's always tricky whenever you go up against one, you're like, what do you have? That would be like my dream is being able to see like a guide of like every battle, every Pokemon, what their ability is, what their move set is, so that you can like plan around that. I know you can do that for like the bigger fights. But yeah, if they get moves that like a lot of it is the coverage move that like you're not thinking about as a kid where you're like, oh, there's no way they have a psychic move. I'll use my well, I don't know why you'd use fighting against a ghost, but like a poison Pokemon, or something like that, and then they just come around, they're super effective against you. You're just like, oh, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and the Ghost Gengar is probably one of my favorite Gen 1 Pokemon other than like Mewtwo. Gengar's probably up there, I would say. I mean, the ghosts were super cool, like Haunter and Gengar and there was not that many of them. There was like what were they? Now that I think about it, what were they the only ghost types in the game?
I think they were. And to your point about like Gengar being so cool, like him, Alakazam, Machamp, and for a lesser extent Golem, because they were trade evolutions, like I never got them. So like I ran Kadabra like the whole game and he's like level 96 and I'm like, why won't you evolve? Because again, like I don't have the internet at this age. I don't have, people with a link cable. I don't understand what's going wrong with this. Um, but yeah, they're definitely cool, but it's so hard in a lot of these games to actually use them unless you are able to trade. Uh, that
Yeah.
in my opinion kind of keeps them from being as cool as I would like them to be. But yeah, they were the first ghost ones. And Haunter specifically, if you've ever seen the episode of the anime where Ash has to go and get the Haunter to beat Sabrina, he had so much personality. Like I honestly kind of again I get stuck with Haunter and Kadabra a lot in games, but like I kind of like them better sometimes because I'm like there's a lot of personality and connection uh there.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I mean the in the show too, like for example, Charmander or Charmeleon and Charizard's personality feels like it completely flips. Like Charmander's like totally with Ash, Charmeleon's with Ash, like we're bros. And then when he becomes like a Charizard, he's like, I hate you, Ash. Like F you, like I'm not gonna ever listen to you again. You know what I mean? It was kind of a it's kind of a weird turn, you know. So they definitely try to portray those personalities in the anime. So like when you like the Haunter and the Charizard and even the of course the Pikachu, like you know that's like the number one. But yeah, it's kind of cool how the show had such an impact on the game. I mean, the game literally wouldn't have existed without the show, I don't think, but it's yeah, it they definitely tried to tie that in a lot. And you know, I when I played Gen 2, I feel like that's where they kind of I mean, they follow the show with Gen 2 or is that kind of its own thing or do you
I'll be
know?
honest, I have not watched any of the Gen 2 anime, so I can't speak to that, but
Yeah.
I have really negative opinions about Gen 2, so that
Okay.
probably would be helpful. It feels so weird, and it's not just like an old thing. I think what it is you talked about Pokemon MMO or whatever. I've heard of Gen 2 just be described as an MMO because there's so many different events that are on different days. You're supposed to like in like the day night cycle, like wait to come back at night to catch this Pokemon. Wait for Friday to go get Lapras in this cave. You know, all these different things that I guess if you want to play the game like that, but I'm very much like I want to keep progressing. Like I want to get to the next gym, and if I miss something because timing doesn't line up, then I'm not coming back for it. Is the way I play.
No, yeah, you're right. Gen 2, I liked it as a kid, but as an adult, I think I would hate it. And only because like I don't have time for that kind of stuff. So if there was something I wanted to do, but I liked it because like I don't know, it felt like the world was more alive. Like it's like okay, you're getting like cell phone calls about going back and battling these trainers and they're talking to you and like you're I don't know, you know, you only get certain Pokemon at night and day. I did think that was kind of cool as a kid, but now that I'm an adult, maybe like that it's like I gotta wait until Friday. I'm playing the game now. Like I wanna, you know,
I can't
capture
play
my
on
life.
Friday. Yeah,
Yeah. So like, you know, you got kids and you know, I'm married, so I can't imagine what I'm, you know, what's gonna be happening Friday. So yeah, very interesting. Is what's your favorite region? Is Kanto? I mean, I'm guessing it can't be Kanto because you've played it too
no.
many times. But
Unfortunately, it's not. It's actually Hoenn. I think it is just absolutely like a tropical paradise, and I would totally live there if I had the chance.
is that the Gen 3?
Yeah, that's Gen 3. Sorry to
No,
people use
I
them
it
interchangeably, so if you don't know them, you're like, "I don't know what you're talking about."
yeah, I haven't played Gen 3. I know some of the Pokemon that were introduced. Like I could tell you pretty much all the Pokemon up to Gen 2, like up to Lugia. And then after that, like I can tell you some of the Gen 3 Pokemon, but it's very patchy for me because that's about the age I kind of I
Fell
want to
off.
say like I fell off of Pokemon because I was like I just felt like it maybe I don't know, maybe I was getting into Digimon at the time. I was like, "Oh, well, Pokemon's for, like, young kids," and then now
Mhm.
I'm into Digimon now. Now I'm a big kid and I like Digimon, and so I don't know, and I think, you know, as a teenager, I didn't really it's funny because I got back into Pokemon as an adult kind of, you know?
Me
Like,
too.
um I was like, "Oh, there are certain aspects of these games that are good," and they're you know, and just because I don't watch the anime, because the anime when I tried to watch it again, like I put it on for my dogs as a like when I'm away, like from home, I'll put on the
Mhm.
new Pokemon anime for them to like listen to or whatever. But I tried watching it passively, like when I was in the kitchen and stuff, and I was like, this is it's a kids
It is
show,
the kids
you know,
show. Yep.
it's a kids show. And the last time I enjoyed the anime it was called Pokemon Origins. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't. Is that newer? I know there's like the Journeys my kids used to watch. I think they similarly kind of outgrew it and said, "This is I don't like this anymore."
Yeah, it's Origins was just like a 4-part, I think, episode. Like there was only four episodes, and it follows Red and his story.
Oh,
Um,
that's actually
and
kind of cool. I might be interested in that.
yeah, no, it's worth a watch. And because they don't like, yeah, it still kind of has some of those kid aspects, but they also have more like adult anime aspects. Like you'll see the Pokemon and get in fights, and they're beating the crap at each other, like actually beating the crap at each other. You're like, whoa, like this isn't like, you know,
This isn't for
not
kids.
like, yeah, no, I guess a kid could watch it if it's like, but it's not like super gory or anything. It's just you're like, "Oh, this is kind of like what I would like Pokemon to be as an adult more so." So, yeah, give it a try. I mean, see if you like it, but it's definitely, you give you 2 hours of your time to watch it. But yeah, no, it would be cool if they'll never do it cuz Pokemon's always going to be like targeted at kids. But it would be kind of cool if they made it more adult or made like a series that was more adult,
Yeah,
just for me to enjoy. I mean,
right.
that'd
Just
be
for the
cool
one fan.
if, yeah, just the one guy. Hey, you know what? A lot of us boomers, man, we come back to the Pokemon games and
And we have the
we,
money now. You know what I mean?
yeah,
These kids, they don't have the money. They're playing
that's
Fortnite,
right.
you know?
That's right. Yeah, you target us. The kids are coming along. Like you're gonna get like a 2-in-1, 2-for-1, whatever you call that, but deal. So buy one get one free. Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like they did that with I was trying to think of an example of a series they did do that with, where it started out as a kid series and then they kind of changed it an adult, but I can't really. I feel like that's had to have happened. I don't know. I'm getting on a little bit of a side note there, but yeah. So let's see. Who's your favorite lineup? So if you're running a Pokemon lineup in Gen 1, like who are your go-to like as your 6 Pokemon that you have or whatever?
So I'm gonna have a hot take. I don't like starters. Like I love Squirtle because that was like my first, entry into this thing. But I think they're just too good. Like they do too many good things for too long, and I think that's the point. The idea is like you start your journey with them and you go all the way to the end. But so I don't always use my starter. I will try to, like I said, try to be creative. Like I was a big fan of, instead of using Squirtle for Brock, because that takes like 2 seconds. I would use Butterfree because he is really, Onyx and Geodude have really low special defense. And again, I didn't know this as a kid. I just got really lucky that I was like, oh, Butterfree's cool from the show, and he evolves really quickly. And hey, he learns Confusion Psychic so strong, and it went right through them. So I'll definitely use Butterfree if I can. And then I can't remember if he's exclusive to Red or Blue. He's probably in Red. So like I'll say I like Sandshrew a lot, but I must have used him in other games if I couldn't have used him in Blue. But yes, I think Sandslash is really cool, and I think it goes back to the anime too. There was an episode where he meets this trainer who like trains his Sandshrew with like a whip, and he's like super good. And I always like, oh, that was really cool. And then I'm also probably biased because I had my first and only hardcore Nuzlocke victory was in Alpha Sapphire, and Sandslash was my last Pokemon that won me the battle. So uh,
Nice.
re- really enjoy that line. If I can get Mr. Mime, if I can remember where he is, I will. If not, I do like Kadabra, so I will waste the time with teleporting Abras and just throwing balls at them until it works. Um,
Yeah.
who else do I like to use? That's like two or three of them. I feel like I always have to have some kind of flyer, although I don't really like any of the flying types in Kanto, um, because they just seem very basic to me. But I would always like, if I could honestly pick one, I'd probably pick Farfetch'd, which is a really, again, it's like a in-game trade. It's not very good, but I just think he's unique. It just, everyone else feels very basic for a flying Pokemon.
Yeah.
Um, I think Mankey Primate, that line I thought was really cool as a fighting type, especially since they're pretty strong. Um, that would also be another pickup. And then I weirdly really like ice Pokemon. They're really weak, I think, technically, like stat wise. But yeah, I mean, I can't remember how you get Jinx. That would just double dip. You get the psychic and the ice. But I've used things like a dugong before, or a cloister. Um, if I have
Okay.
the stamina, like Kabutops, could fill that water spot that I'm missing. So that's a general spread of who I like to go for in Gen 1.
Okay. Yeah, nice. I always was I liked Pidgeotto and Pidgeot as a flying type for the Gen 1. I think it was the Pokemon cards that kind of made me feel that way cuz I remember like my neighbor having like I think he had Pidgeot as a card and I was like, "Whoa, like that's so sick," or Pidgeotto. So I thought they were pretty cool. Who's my lineup? I think my go-to lineup is probably Blastoise and then Kadabra, or Alakazam if I can help it. And then who else? I do like Haunter and Gengar. It's like the most I'm just going for the OP guys. But they're also cool. Like they're cool concepts as well. Who else? I do like having an electric type, like a Pikachu or Raichu. I think that felt useful sometimes against, especially like water types and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think the concept of electric types are really cool. I don't really like Electabuzz that much. I think he's kind of a lame concept. Um, so I don't know. Like he looks like a
I've
just
actually grown attached to Magnemite, mainly because of the steel
okay.
typing. Um, so if you don't like
Okay, yeah.
Electabuzz, pick up a Magnemite.
Yeah, he doesn't have steel in Gen 1, right? That's like
No,
a
he
Gen 2
doesn't.
thing. Yeah. But yeah, Magnemite's cool. And then who else do we have? I really like Scyther. I don't think I ran with him a lot, but I love the design of Scyther. He's like one of the coolest looking Gen 1. Um and then who else was I? I would run. You know what? My electric type was most of the time was Zapdos. I would if I like
There you
at
go.
that point in the game.
You got the whole team, whole squad.
Yeah, right. Like you just run with the most OP character. Zapdos is sick too. He's my favorite bird out of the first three. Who's your favorite legendary bird?
I was a big fan of Articuno. I feel somewhat guilty about this, but not really because I don't have the cards anymore. But my younger sister, got a Articuno like holographic or something in like a card pack, and she didn't care for them, so I like traded her something really terrible, and she like always reminds me about that. Remember when you ripped me off? And I'm like, yeah, but it was like my
Oh.
favorite.
Yeah, yeah, I did. I kind of did that when I was trading cards. What I would try to do is I would try to give people a bunch of like basic cards for like a rare card. I'm like, look, I'm
Yeah.
giving you like 7 cards. Like,
Hmm.
why, 7 for 1? That's a crazy deal. The only reason I'm doing this is because I don't have that one, but it's a bad deal for me. I'd always make it like, but
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
it wasn't actually a bad deal for me. But
No. No.
you
Not
know,
at all.
it's kids are kids if they don't know any better. They'll trade it. They're like, yeah, 7 cards is more than one, so yeah, I did that a couple times. My friend was really bad at it. He's kind of the one who got me into the whole like haggling with people like that. But he would say all kinds of mean stuff if they didn't trade him. He's like, okay, you're just an idiot, he that was so funny. Oh man, being kids. But yeah, so what about how do you feel about like the Safari Zone and stuff like that? That was kind of a weird concept to the game.
Yeah, I feel like as a kid, it was really hard to understand because you never were really given an explanation on like what the bait and what the rock really did. Like you could conceptually think like if I throw a rock at it, it's going to run away, or if I give it food, it'll stay. But it was like I think it worked the other way. It's like if you throw a rock at it, it's more likely to run away, but it's easier to catch. If you throw bait at it, it's less likely to run away, but harder to catch. I think was how it works. So it like wasn't intuitive. Um, so I'll be honest, I probably didn't spend enough time there as a kid, but as I've gotten older, I think it's a fantastic um mechanic. I think it's super cool to be like, hey, these Pokemon may not be native to the region. Like, it's hard to say that with Kanto, but like the idea of Safari Zones in other regions that bring in other Pokemon that weren't native to the region, I think that's really cool. Where it's like, hey, we're going on a safari, they're already coming in. It's almost like a zoo, but you can go in there and catch them. So
Yeah.
I have no idea other than I must not have been an idiot as a 10-year-old, but like you had to find an item in there that was like, or you couldn't get surf. So like
Yeah.
clearly I must have gone through there, found the item because again played lots of RPGs growing up. I know that if there's an item on the ground, you just pick it up because you never know if it could be like a huge weapon upgrade or armor or whatever. But it somehow happened to be the item I needed to eventually talk to every NPC. That's another thing that I still do or try to do in RPGs. That's just like that's so ingrained in me, and that must be how I got through that.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, some RPGs will punish you if you don't do that. It's like you miss something like integral to helping you beat like this boss or like, something that's going to be a huge upgrade for you later on or something or some sort of story bit. So RPGs will do that where it's like, okay, I got to talk to every single character otherwise I'm going to miss some sort of unlock. Um which is a good and a bad thing where it's like, okay, you're more involved with the world, but at the same time, like you feel like I don't know, I don't know how you call it, like anxious to talk to everybody. It's like, okay, don't miss anything. But yeah, I feel like the Safari region was a cool concept, but it wasn't explained well enough in the first game, like on how to go about it.
Yeah, I definitely feel that's my experience with it.
Yeah, because as
Or
a kid,
again,
I didn't
maybe
know
I
either.
didn't talk to the right NPC, or maybe there's a book on a shelf that explained it better. Maybe I just glossed over their explanation, I don't know.
Yeah, and I felt like I had the same issue as you, when I was a kid too, where I was like, "What am I doing with these rocks and these, whatever?" Because I felt like I had read everything as a kid, so maybe I did gloss over it, but maybe it was like a specific NPC that tells you as well. So yeah, the Safari. If you don't, find that information, the Safari Zone feels like a complete mystery, and it feels like you're like wasting your time there. So, but there was some cool Pokemon like Kangaskhan and who else was in there? I think you get Dratini, right?
Yeah, I think you had to fish for that. Like Executor or Execute was in there. Um, Rhyhorn, I think, was in there. Yeah, I think Rhyhorn probably was in a cave too. But yeah, there were a lot of Chansey, I think, was in there. Rare
Yep.
Pokemon that were in there. And again, with just the lack of explanation and the lack of interest in a lot of the rare Pokemon that seemed to be in there or I was told was in there, I didn't spend enough time as a kid. But it's definitely something if I'm going through like Hoenn and I'm like, oh, I can get this person if I go to this part of the Safari Zone because like I'm a big Heracross fan as much as I dislike Gen 2 and he's in the Hoenn Safari Zone. I'm like, yeah, I got to get him on my team.
Yeah. Um, do you have a favorite character?
Like I said, I have only watched like the first season of the anime, so it would probably be like characters from later games. But I don't know if you've ever played Black and White, but I think he's the antagonist, or at least built up to be it. His name is literally N. Um, he's supposed to be the leader of like Team Plasma, which are the bad guys or whatever. But really intrigued by they talk about in the story, like Pokemon liberation. Like, should we be catching Pokemon? Is this like ethical kind of like that's like the dilemma they're trying to pose to people. Um, and he is all about like truth and ideals, and I really love just truth and ideals in general in life myself. So like having like an interesting take, and his cool gimmick is he never uses the same team. Every time you fight him, he uses a different team. You never see the same Pokemon. So it's implied that he uses Pokemon to battle, but then he releases them. And I know that's like, I don't know anybody that really releases Pokemon because like people get attached to them. Why would you do that? But I thought the release mechanic was actually like really cool in concept because I'm like, these are living creatures that you're like capturing and controlling. Like, so I not like enjoy when my Pokemon die during a Nuzlocke, but I enjoy actually using the release feature because I'm like, hey, you served the team, you did your time. I'm sorry, you lost, at least, you can go back to your family or something like that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't know that character, but it sounds like he has actually some sort of interesting background, and it sounds like he kind of deals with the nuances of the moral dilemmas of catching Pokemon and battling with them, which is kind of like a funny thing that I felt like at least when I was involved with Pokemon in back in the day, like they didn't really address like the whole thing about it's like okay you're capturing Pokemon, but it's not really against their will, but it is like as far as the capturing it is, but as far as the battling, like if they refuse to battle, it seems like they kind of refuse it unless you're Giovanni and you're like trying to force your Pokemon to do it. I liked Giovanni as a bad guy. He was kind of like one of my favorite characters from the show because he was like the leader of Team Rocket and stuff. Um, but he had this relationship with like Mewtwo in the movie where he's like using him, and then Mewtwo kind of figures it out, like you're just using me or whatever. But is Giovanni my favorite character? Maybe, maybe not. He's kind of a typical bad guy, you know. He's like just like I don't know, steal all the Pokemon and we will be the most powerful organization on the planet. Um, who else is you got Misty, you got Brock, you have Lieutenant Surge, Sabrina,
Oh yeah,
Bla-
I would say
Blaine.
Sabrina freaked me out as a kid. Like that episode where she's like having the doll or controlling the doll or whatever, and like use again showing how broken Psychic is, where it's like you know Kadabra's barely doing anything, and Pikachu's like just slamming itself off the ground, and like it. Yeah, that was really cool. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Misty too. I think she's like a really cool gym leader. I thought it was kind of weird in the show how like she's like, "Oh, I'm one of four sisters or whatever, and I'll battle you because they're into beauty pageants or whatever. Like they don't want to run the gym anymore." But I like I'm a big fan of water Pokemon too, so I guess that probably helps. So, and
Yeah.
then I really like Jesse and James, as stupid as they are. I think they bring so much good comic relief to the show, and they really, I mean, they're like half the show, but I feel like they really make it where it's like the things they do and are constantly stupid and constantly blowing up in their face, and as a little kid, that's just hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, they are kind of like the comic relief, they're kind of like the bumbling idiots that can never get anything right, but and they're like bad, but they're also not like super bad, They got some good side to them as well. Um
Yeah, there's like
Brock
I
was
think it's the Lieutenant Surge episode. They end up like cheering for Ash or whatever. Like,
yeah. Yeah, they do help Ash a few times. I think they helped him. They might have helped him in the movie too. I can't. I'm trying to remember, but yeah, they help him a few times when Ash is like in a predicament where he's like, "Yeah, we want his Pikachu, but we don't want to like, I don't know, see this kid die or something." Um, but Brock was funny for me because he just was like kind of that stupid like. He's like really knowledgeable and super helpful and he's a nice guy, but he's like so obsessed with women, it's
yeah,
like just so obsessed. He's kind of like the Sanji if you watch One Piece. He's like that kind of character where it's like just love struck by every woman. And it's funny because like the all the police women are like the same, they're all twins, and
yeah.
so are all the nurses. They're all twins, so they always look like each other. He's like, wow, I didn't know this Officer Jenny could be more beautiful than the last one. It's like they're just the same, you know. It's kind of a funny concept to the show. But yeah,
Yeah, they did that
I
without like making him creepy, which is kind of a breath of fresh air. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah, I think he wasn't like talking about their body parts. He wasn't like, "Oh, their boobs and their butt" or whatever. He was just like talking about like, "Oh, you're just so beautiful," He was very yeah, it was I wouldn't say wholesome. I think that's going too far, but it was very
No,
yeah, it wasn't I'm like losing words today. It
over the
wasn't like
top.
disturbing. It wasn't
Yeah.
disturbing. So yeah, totally. Oh, so let's kind of talk about how the game aged a little bit, and how it hasn't, because there's a lot of people when they talk about Red and Blue, they think that this game's aged. It's not worth revisiting. Like just play the Leaf Green, the Fire Red. Is that true, or is there any reason for people to kind of go back and be like, yeah, these games are good to play?
That's such a loaded question because
It's so
I
loaded.
feel like I don't no, no, it's fine. I just feel like I don't know how I even feel about that. So I'll just give a couple of perspectives. So when I got back into Pokemon, like 2019, that was like Sword and Shield era. There was Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee on the Switch. Like, started all of that. My kids just picked up and played Let's Go Eevee, and they loved it. And they went through it. They watched the shows. All the same things. But like, they didn't have the red and the blue experience that I did. So they're seeing like what I was imagining, and they're seeing it in the show at the same time. They won't go
Right.
back. They look at red and blue and they say, these games are ugly. These are the games with bad graphics. So, like, I think it's really hard to, like, start on the newer stuff as maybe at least a kid. Maybe an adult could do it and see the benefit of it, and go back. And we have friends that actually have started their kids on Red and Blue and gotten them the link cables and everything, and they're having the time of their life because they're having, like, the experience we had of, like, "Hey, I'm playing this game, I'm using my imagination, maybe I have some cards, maybe I see a show." Like, all of that aspect. So, it's interesting from, like, a kid's perspective where I've seen, like, they do, and they can appreciate it if that's all they're exposed to, but if they're not, they don't appreciate it. As an adult, like I said, I've really had a hard time going back myself because, one, I lost my I sold my copy, like, honestly, it's funny, like 5 years before I ended up buying everything back, but, like, when I went through getting back into it, I had all the current stuff, and then I started acquiring all of the old stuff, and it was just one of those things that I was like, I don't really have a desire to revisit it again because my first 3 games were there, so, if I get there, I get there. I actually inherited my cousin's copy of Pokemon Red, which I have now, and that's actually I I hold on to that with such fond memories because that was literally the copy that, like, I would trade with them in battle with them back in the day. So, like, while my blue is lost to wherever, this red actually was, like, in my childhood and in my family. So, I have got one of my kids to start it. He's in Pewter City, and I actually just played through Brock to see because he picked Charmander, and I was like, there's no rock move, so it's not dangerous. So, like, and again, I moved around the town to see if, like, the running shoes was as big of an issue as people say it is. It's not. But again, I was, like, born and bred on old school RPGs that, like, had slow walking, like, on a grid. It's not something I'm not used to. So I almost wonder if it's like people today that are getting into it, or if they're older and they're like, hey, I've gotten so used to quality of life changes. Like, why would I go back to something that's so broken, so ancient. There's been so many changes, but I do think there is some value to it. Like, I looked at, like, the stat spread of Charmander, and I'm like, he's kind of a mixed attacker. Like, he has, like, one less special stat than his attack stat. And I was like, I know rock and ground are going to resist fire, but I said their special defense is so low. I was able to just use Ember the whole time and, be creative with how I switched out, and I was able to take down Brock. So it has what I like about it, the, like, kind of puzzle building, the creative challenges. I just don't know how many people like that aspect of it, and, would like something more. People are constantly complaining about Pokemon's graphics are so behind the time, and I mean, maybe they are, but they were kind of like that from the start. Like you said, Final Fantasy VII came out the year before Red and Blue came out. Like, talk about two different worlds to experience at the same time.
Right. Right. Yeah, as far as the graphics, I feel like it's more of a preference than calling it bad, because, like, people yeah, I mean, you could say it's, like, not as advanced. There's less pixels on the screen than something like the Super Nintendo even, or Castlevania Symphony of the Night, or the newer Pokemon games. There's way less pixels, right? It's like you're talking about, I think it's an 8-bit game. Like, you're talking about not that many pixels on the screen, but it's got an art style that some people definitely cherish. But it's kind of, you bring up a interesting concept because it's like, what if you're somebody who's used to newer games, like your kids, and then they go and play something like this, and they're like, this just sucks. This doesn't look good. It's like the graphics are horrible. It's slow. Like your character moves slow. There's no way to run. And you're just kind of like, the battles take a long time, and you're kind of jaunting around, and eventually you get fly, which kind of helps in the game. But yeah, personally, I think I think some people are gonna fall under, you're gonna fall under either one of two categories. You're gonna be like, uh, let's say it's a new person playing the game. Like, you're gonna be like, well, this game is old, it sucks, it's aged, and I don't want to play it. It's too boring. Or you're gonna be like, oh, there is some charm to it. The graphics, there's some charm to it. The music, there's charm to it. The sprites, there's charm to it. You have to be kind of someone who, I feel like, appreciates artwork and
Yeah.
appreciates like music, and maybe if you appreciate kind of like simplicity, which some people do, then you'll like it. But maybe it's not going to be for the broader audience. Maybe if a new person played it today, I would say 7 out of the 10 might say no, or 6 out of the 10. You might get like a 40% who's like, yeah, this is good, or 30%. But I think it's going to fall into the category of, this is too old for a lot of people, you know?
Yeah, but I would agree with that. And it's kind of funny because I think they may be like the best selling games in the series. Like I know some games have gotten closer, but they were like over 30 million. And it's really hard to imagine like a game today coming out and selling so well in its first iteration and then lasting for another 30 years, and other games not being able to kind of like reach those same heights in sales.
Yeah, I just for the younger audience in here, I think you're maybe a little bit older than me because I was 7. I think I was born in 91. So I think
The
you might be
88.
have a couple. Yeah, so if you have a few years. But we, just for people who are younger than us, um you can't imagine the phenomenon that Pokemon was in 98 and 97. Like, whenever it came out. Like, you cannot imagine how it took over the world. You actually cannot, because I cannot think of another phenomenon in this day and age that was like that. I literally can't. Can you?
No, and I think the only time it maybe even got close to that was when like Pokemon Go came out in 2016. Like I think enough people were hyped about that. Um, but I just feel like that game falls so flat in comparison to like an actual RPG and like real engaging combat that would keep people. That again, that's my perspective.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way about Pokemon Go. Big, cool, very cool concept, big kind of bad implementation. But it was kind of a phenomenon as well. That, I guess, that is the closest thing. Like, when I try to think of other phenomenon like that took over the world, like people were just obsessed. You had stuff like Beanie Babies. You had stuff like, I don't know, Cabbage Patch Dolls, maybe. Some Barbie
Even
stuff.
thinking more about games, like I don't understand these games, but I know that like the whole Minecraft is huge. I think it's probably like the best selling game ever, like millions and millions of copies. That stuff like that, like the Fortnites, the Roblox. But to me, a lot of that loses like the whole like free to play or like pay to win, like free to start. It just doesn't have enough substance for me. And I get it. People are way more creative than me and they're building Disneyland or whatever they're doing in these games and having a great time. And I'm not trying to take that away from people, but to me, like I like the structured story. I like a an coherent combat system, especially if that's the loop, if that's what I'm going to be doing for hours and hours and hours. I want to know that I understand it, I can master it, and it's enjoyable. If I'm like
Yeah.
confused, if it's like, oh, I have to pay more to get these things that I want, or if it's like, do whatever you want, I'm like, I get confused. I'm like, I just turn it off.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right, and those are two good points. Is like Roblox and Minecraft. Those might be the closest phenomenon as far as like taking over the child world that we've gotten in the modern day. Um, because those games. I'm not going to take away from them. Those games are insanely popular with kids. I mean, they just love them. But I don't know. I don't know if it hit that Pokemon mark. I'm not sure. I can't really. I wasn't a kid when Minecraft came out. I did play it a little bit as an adult, and it was. I would say it was enjoyable and it was cozy, but it, like you said, it wasn't a hook. Like I wasn't like, this is my game. It was
Right.
kind of like I got to the Ender Dragon. I had built a couple of castles in the sky and stuff, and just did random stuff. Whatever. Got some diamond stuff, but that was it. Like that was my. I'm like I kind of beat the game for me. I'm not gonna go out there and build Disneyland or build what an atlas of the world or something. It's like I don't have that in me that other people do. Like that. I don't know if you want to call it creativity, because I feel like I have creativity, but that obsession with building like pictures or structures, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then Roblox, but I was too old for Roblox. I'm just gonna say it. Like I felt like I was out of that realm of age. Like I have a couple of I've had a friend suggest, like, yeah, it's not, there's some games in there that are kind of, but I've only seen like really it looks kind of like Minecraft, and it was just a bunch of kids running around. From when I watched my little brother playing it, and they were just screaming at each other, like all these kids and stuff. And I was like, I don't know. This doesn't appeal to me like even the slightest. So Roblox was like kind of a no for me. But yeah, those are the biggest phenomenon, basically, that I think gotten close to Pokemon. Not sure if they reached those heights. I mean, there was a Minecraft movie, but the Minecraft movie just came out. Like the Pokemon movie came out like literally what, like a couple years after the anime.
Yeah, it was really quickly, and I think I actually just saw something about the whole new Mario movie that came out, that they're talking about like, hey, we can only reach so many people with the games. We need to, expand to movies and theme parks and stuff. And people are like, Pokemon got that from like day one, where they're like, we're gonna have a show, we're gonna have cards, we're gonna have movies, we're gonna have merchandise, and we're gonna have a game. And now to the point where like people who are fans of the game, like I am, kind of get like frustrated, where like these games aren't as good as they could be. But then you look at it from like a whole enterprise, you're like, but they do introduce 100 new merchandise option. Never mind. I see what's going on here.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the funny thing is about all of those things you mentioned, like the cards, the movies, the anime, like all of it sold insanely well. Like all of it sold very, very well back then. Like everybody had to have everything Pokemon. Like the McDonald's toys that came out, like everyone had to have everything Pokemon. It was so crazy, dude. Like I can't yeah, it's hard to recreate that, like that. It's wild. Um, Casting a spell, like the South Park episode. You remember? Have you seen the South Park episode of
Is there
Pokemon?
one? No, I've seen the one about WoW, but I haven't seen the one about Pokemon.
So they even had a South Park episode where like kids were basically being brainwashed to become suicide bombers for Japan and attack Pearl Harbor. That was that was the whole thing. Like Pokemon was brainwashing the kids, like because it was like casting a spell on them, just like real life. Not the Pearl Harbor thing, but it was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
casting spells over kids. And like I think my parents were like, "What the hell is this?" Like why are my kids so obsessed? I think every parent probably had that thought back then. Was like, why are my kids so obsessed with this thing?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Even today, I retrospectively look at it, like, I don't even know why I was so obsessed. Maybe it was because there was just so much hype around it. Um, I just having these, like, companions that you could battle with, and these games were just made those, like, tenfold, they increased the hype, everything, yeah, anyways, it's hard to people who didn't live through it, it's hard to explain it to them, is kinda my main point, you know? Um, so yeah. Let's see. Oh, so yeah, it's aged a bit. I think that it's we kind of covered that point, but if my mind's a little bit all over the place, I get a little bit of ADD going through this stuff. But yeah, no, yeah, it's I think we covered the age thing is kind of what I'm saying. So, I wanted to go into like the final verdict of these games, and we kind of do like suggest like should you reload the game or not. And I typically rate the games like 1 out of a number. I'm gonna rate it 1 out of 8 badges. Feel free if you want to do it too.
Okay.
Uh, some people are like, I don't want to put a number on it, and that's fine. But if you had to, so 2 questions. If you had to rate this game 1 out of 8 badges, what would you rate it? Second question, would you recommend people to reload the game?
If we're talking red and blue, I would probably have to rate it like a 4 out of 8. And that's me trying to be objective because I think I personally would rate it a little bit higher. But that's just with my experience. But if you're talking to people that have never played it, and that sounds terrible, if you say a game got a 50 on like Metacritic, nobody would pick it up. But then I'll
Right.
say this in conjunction with my next answer is I think people should replay it. And I think like you need to experience it either for the first time or you need to go back and try and experience it again. Not the way that you did as a kid, but through new eyes. Like I said, I just quickly went through like the Brock fight, but with all my knowledge of what I know now, like I was able to get through a hurdle without like being like, oh, I picked the wrong starter, or oh, I need to go grind to get more levels. Like sometimes we think in RPGs that like just being a higher level means you win, which is typically correct, but it's like there are usually other more creative ways to do that. And so I think that, go ahead, replay it. And if you hate it, then put it down. Don't ever pick it up and, sell your copy. But it's like, I feel like if I'm going to keep this copy of Red, like I've got to at least sit down and put one solid playthrough to justify keeping it because I think it's just that good. And my favorite part is it just keeps getting better. Like I know people have talked about like the newer games aren't as good as the older games. Like I definitely think there's an argument to be had going back and forth there, but it's like if I enjoy the combat in Gen 1, I can enjoy it in Gen 10 and vice versa. If I like what's going on in the current games, it's a little bit slimmer of a roster than I would usually like and I think a lot of Kanto Pokemon are overused and I can kind of get tired of them, but I think it's worth a replay.
Okay. Yeah, nice. So there you hear, you've heard it, guys. There's one vote for reload the game. Now, so for me, we'll go to my rating and my reload. This game is so clouded by nostalgia. It's so hard for me to be objective. Like like this is I'm gonna say like this is probably the most difficult game that I've had a hard time on the show being objective with, which is saying a lot because I've played some classics on the show that I loved, and I had nostalgia for. But this one's a rough one because I played this game for years, until the silver and the gold came out. I played it for like hours and hours and hours on my original Game Boy, the Game Boy Color, and trading and just being so obsessed with Pokemon at the time. But if I'm truly being objective, I think I have to rate these games maybe like a 4.5 or 5 out of 8. I think at 8 badges, I think there is some sustenance to it. Like I do think that you can pick this up and maybe be a new person and enjoy the game if you like music and art and you just are trying to have like a casual game that you're while you're waiting in at the airport or at the bus stop or you're on the pooper and you're like trying to you want to play a game. I think Red and Blue is a great game to play like in those scenarios. Like it's just very casual and you go through it and you level. There is grinding and some people don't mind it, but if you don't like grinding, then Red and Blue's gonna probably like nudge you in the wrong direction. um and I think there is a lot of charm to it. And this is probably some of my nostalgia talking, but I think the melodies are still catchy. I think that the art still isn't bad. I think it's still like charming. And that being said, uh, if I were to rate it on nostalgia, yeah, it's like a 7 out of 8. If this is like my nostalgia speaking completely, I'd say like 7 out of 8, great game. Not perfect game, like go play it. But yeah, 5 probably max out of 8. 4.5 probably is where I sit. And I would say, but like you said, with the caveat that you should reload the game. Like I think everyone should give it a chance. I don't think it's going to be for everybody, but I think if you enjoy RPGs, then you'll probably like it. Like it's got that old RPG aspect where you're leveling Pokemon or not Pokemon, where you're leveling characters and you're battling other characters in a turn-based combat. Um but the animations are old and you're not going to see a bunch of cool stuff like that. It's just going to be kind of a very casual ride through Kanto, and you're going to get to the end and you'll be satisfied. If you like capturing stuff and collecting, I think these games are always great for that. If you're like a collector person who loves like collectathons and stuff, yeah, you can go around and that's like your main objective of the game is like just getting every Pokemon. You can definitely get obsessed with that, like I have before. But yeah, they've aged in many ways. They're slower. The color isn't really there. The graphics could be better. I prefer rather than 8-bit. I'm more somebody who prefers like a 16-bit graphic style. I think
I'm
that's
with you.
A better style. You know, I think it like 16 bits kind of that sweet spot for what would you say like retro like pixels,
Yeah, that's like a lot of Super Nintendo era stuff where you get your what I consider retro. I know, like, people probably think the PlayStation 3 is retro at this point.
Right. Yeah, and then I'd say like max 32, but I don't think I think 32 to 16 to 32, I don't know what Octopath Traveler was. Probably more than 32. It's probably like a 64 by 64, but yeah, no, great. It's worth it. It's just old, It was the first iteration on an original Game Boy. We're talking about the big bulky gray box
And that's what
with
I
that
played it on. I don't know what you played it on, if you had a Game Boy Color or something.
I started
More
out
advanced.
on the OG Game Boy, and then while I had the game, we got the color, and the color was a better experience, for sure. It took less batteries, took way less batteries, and the screen wasn't just like a green, like the old G Game Boys had that like green screen or whatever it is, and they're like
Yeah.
they kind of turn on to be gray or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever had the opportunity, but a Super Game Boy here is a really cool way to play this. I'm not much of a console gamer anymore because my life is so like on the go that I need things to be portable, and I actually prefer it. Even back then, everything was portable, but yeah, it's a really unique experience to be able to play on a TV, and it adds a lot of color and option. There's like borders and stuff.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and I think ROM hack. Honestly, I might say go find yourself a popular ROM hack of the games. Maybe like that Legacy Yellow you were talking about, or like something that kind of gets rid of some of these aged mechanics, and you'll probably have a better time with the game. I'm assuming.
Yeah, I actually
So,
saw a YouTube video of a dad introducing his daughter to Pokemon and doing Yellow Legacy, and I was like, you know what, that might be the best solution because it's like there are rough edges that like I know and I can appreciate, but I could see a new player coming in and being like, gosh, why is this like this? This seems so terrible. Like the fact that your crit is tied to your speed stat. I was getting crit by these Diglett because they're so darn fast, and I was like, this is so annoying, but I know why this is happening. But yeah, if you are able to find some good ROM hack that kind of smooths out those rough edges and takes away the things that are really broken and gives you like a more cohesive experience, I think you're in for a good time.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. ROM hacks are like some people don't like them because it messes with the original content. They're made usually typically by people who are super fans of these games. So they are usually pretty good at not changing things that shouldn't be changed in my opinion. So, yeah, very cool. I think I'm going to go check out that Legacy Yellow now that you mentioned it and like see if that's something I want to like actually play. Um, so yeah, thanks for coming on, Game Freak.
Yeah,
You've been
no
a
problem.
great
Thanks for
guest.
having me. Been
And yeah,
been a good time.
I
Enjoy sharing, a lot of common interest, it sounds like, and with somebody else. So
Yeah, if you ever want to come back on the show, let me know if there's an episode. I try to announce it in the announcements and every week. I've been so bad at it lately. Like I'm like last minute, like, hey, I need a guest. But I do try to like say game of the week and stuff. So if you see something you like, let me know and I'd be happy to have you back on. Um
Awesome.
yeah, and just real quick for the audience, next week is our anniversary episode. Retro Reloaded will be on April 5th, technically been up for a year. Since our first episode, we did Oracle of Seasons and Ages as a first episode. We won't be talking about that. That was kind of an idea of like doing an homage to the first episode. But what we will be doing is we'll be doing some of the worst takes and the best takes I had on the show as mentioned by the audience, and we'll be doing a giveaway for Resident Evil 4 remake. So if you're a fan of the Resident Evil series, all you have to do is you get in the Discord and you just react to the post, and boom, you're entered into the giveaway. So very cool, and yeah, it's going to be very fun. We'll also just go over like I was trying to go over my outline here because I have a whole outline. But yeah, we're gonna go over a bunch of stuff. It's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be fun. Yada yada yada. Tune in for the anniversary. Actually, you know what? I was thinking, if you're listening and you're a regular listener of the show, if you want me to do it live, let me know. It might be the only live episode I do, like maybe for anniversary. That could be fun. So yeah, hey yeah. Anyways, thank you, Gamefreak, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
Well, folks, that's game over for this episode of Retro Reloaded. Thanks for joining me on this retro adventure. If you loved today's trip down memory lane, then consider helping me keep the nostalgia alive by supporting me on Patreon at patreon.com/retro reloaded. You'll get early episodes, bonus content, and a chance to pick the next game that we reload. Feel free to let me know your thoughts about the podcast, and until next time, keep those controllers charged.